Hi, my name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. I produce the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings and the Bias Plus reports. Today is Christmas Eve, Benny. December 24th, 2024. How's that? That's about right there. Yeah, yes, it is. Yes, it is. And this is Ben and Barry on football.
What's going on out there, everybody? My name is Ben Dickerson. I am your co-host. And as usual, we're going to start off the show with a few who would have thunk it. Just a couple here. Who would have thunk it? The New York Jets did not punt once this past weekend. They also scored only 9 points and lost the game. It's the first team in the last 25 years to accomplish this feat. Wow. How crazy is that? Who would have thunk it? There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are 8 teams that have never selected number 1 overall in the draft since 1970, which is when they had the AFL NFL merger. Or modern day football, as some people like to say, 1970.
Never?
Never. Those teams would be the Philadelphia Eagles, the Minnesota Vikings, the Seattle Seahawks, the Denver Broncos, the Washington Commanders, the Green Bay Packers, the Baltimore Ravens, and the New York Giants. If the Giants lose their final 2 games, they will come off this list, as they will have the number 1 pick in the 2025 draft. Who would have thunk it? Here's one for you.
Shot at it, didn't I?
Let me see. Most primetime games this season. Six primetime games. Those games were with the Jets, the Cowboys, and the 49ers. So those 3 teams together were given the most primetime games this season. All 3 of them have been eliminated from the playoffs.
It's a death, prime time.
It's a death. That's it for who would have thunk it.
All right, good stuff there. Good stuff. You would have to have my beloved Niners in that last group, wouldn't you?
Bro.
Hey, man, but keep your fingers crossed. I mean, you might get that number 1 pick, man. You're going to get your door.
Personally, I think it's in the bag.
You think it's in the bag?
Since the Raiders won.
Oh, okay. That helps.
That dropped them from 1 to 3.
Oh, right, exactly. Yeah, that's right. They took some heat for that too from the fans.
Well, they're taking heat from the fans, but who cares about the fans?
Yeah, famous last words. Who cares about the fans? Well, I tell you what, Benny. It's been a crazy week. We've been tracking our results, and our results have been pretty good until this week.
Uh-oh, what happened?
There's blood on the streets, man. I'm telling you. We dropped to 50-50.
What? The bias?
The bias, that's right. And I don't know if you remember, and I think I said it on the show, but I know I said it. When you get to this point in the season where people are eliminated and almost eliminated and all that,
yeah,
their priorities and things of that nature begin to change. And so that I don't think that their past records is as good of an indicator.
Oh, okay. I will agree somewhat to that. I cannot say that that's not a true statement, but it can go either way.
Well, we just had, who was that? Was that the Patriots or the Raiders coach who just came on and basically said, "Oh, we ain't losing nothing. If you're thinking about us losing, that's not. No, we're not doing that." And
I don't know who said that. Oh, I know the Raiders coach said, "We're out here to win." He said, "We don't care about the fans. We don't care about your fantasy team. We don't care about what you think, where you think we should draft. We're playing to win. And that's what he's supposed to say. And that's what they're supposed to do. Now, there's ways around that. Anybody who's a Sixers fan knows that. If you need to tank, you can tank. You know what I'm saying? But he has to think about his own job.
Well, we found that tanking mainly is a top-down situation. And we've seen what happened with, for example, Flores, where he gets down to the coach and the players, and they're like, no, we're going to play to win. I don't care if you give me 4 guys from high school down the street. We're going to play to win.
Right. And if that goes against what upper management says, it can cost you your job, as it did for him.
For him, yeah.
But if he goes along with it, or if the head coach says, okay, I understand that's what you want to do, it's up to him to figure out how to get it done, because you cannot tell the players to lose on purpose. That you cannot do.
Exactly.
But there's a way to do it. You play your young guys, you bench veterans, guys that are a little dinged up. You say, hey, man, take it easy. Think about next year, you're good to go, that kind of stuff. You kind of put yourself in the position to not be able to play your best, as opposed to losing on purpose. That doesn't make any sense. Nobody can do that.
Right. Yeah. All right, Benny, so we have the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings here. We have the top half, and again, the top 8 are shaded, and we'll go through that. But before we do, we always want to give some love to the number 1 ranked teams across our 4 categories, A and P being average net points, APF average points for, APA average points against, and our friend Todd, ATLD, average turnover differential. So, in first place for average net points would be Detroit at plus 12.9. They also have first place for scoring, averaging averaging 32.9 points per game. The LA Chargers are still holding on to first place in average points against. That's your defensive scoring position at 18.3 points per game allowed. And Buffalo is back in first place, averaging plus 1.3 average turnover differential in their favor. That means they're taking it away 1.3 times more than they're giving it away. Excuse me. And that would be Buffalo. So congratulations to our first place teams and our Sterling Net Point Power Rankings. Now, we have shaded the top 8. And the reason we do that is because this is the top 25%, top quarter of the league. So this is where we generally see your Super Bowl contenders come from. Now, in the first column, we have average net points. We're starting out with, and again, average net points and average turnover differential can be both positive and negative. So these numbers that you're looking at are all positives. Again, Detroit coming in at 12.9 points per game. Average net points. Buffalo 9.2 average net points. Green Bay 8.4. Minnesota 8. Philly 7.9. Baltimore 6.9. Washington 5.6. And Denver sneaking up into the top 8 there, Benny at 5.5, just edging out Kansas City, who's down in 9th place. So we know Kansas City is a favorite, but bottom line is they're not in the top 8 right now in terms of net points. When we're looking at the top 8 and scoring, you got Detroit, Buffalo. Now you got Baltimore, Washington, Tampa Bay, Cincinnati, Green Bay, and Philly. And you're going from 32.9 points per game down to 26.8 for Philly. Now, let me mention, you've got some red, some names in red, names in green. The names in red are generally teams that, again, have what we call a ranking differential issue, where they're in the top half in terms of either their scoring, but then on the other half, their average points against, they're not in the top half. So that would be Baltimore, Washington, Tampa Bay, and Cincinnati. Now, again, your top scorers are Detroit, Buffalo, Baltimore, Washington, Tampa Bay, Cincinnati, Green Bay, and Philly. That's your top 8 scoring teams. I have my Niners down in 16th place in red because they're in the top half. I probably could have left that down because they're not in the top 8, but they're in the top half, and the defense is not in the top half. On the other side, the LA Chargers are in red because defensively they're in the top half, but offensively they're not. Minnesota, Kansas City, Denver, Philly, Green Bay, Pittsburgh, and Detroit round out the top 8, going from allowing 18.3 points per game to 19.9. And then your top 8 in terms of turnover differential is Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Green Bay, Houston, the LA Chargers, Minnesota, Detroit, and Chicago, going from 1.3 average turnover differential to 0.5 for Chicago. So you got a range there, and you got a 3-way tie with Houston, the Chargers, and Minnesota at 0.7. That's plus 0.7. So those are the top 8, Benny, of our average net point power rankings. You see the Chargers in the top half. You see Cincinnati in the top half in terms of net points. Houston and Seattle is the first team at 0.1. So that's your average net points top half. What do you got on that?
Well, obviously, the average net points, our first column there, is basically our power rankings. And I must say, coming into week 17, meaning there's only 2 games left in the regular season, things are really beginning to take shape as far as I'm concerned. But of course, our power rankings are strictly by the numbers. What I think and feel is strictly my opinion with a bunch of conjecture, but I'm beginning to agree with how the power rankings look. In fact, I would say of the top 8 there, at least, I'm going to say 6 teams to me are a lock to be playoff teams. I know several of them have actually clinched already, but I mean playoff teams, strong playoff teams that could go far. And going far, it means like at least in the second round. Outside of that top 8, there's still a couple of teams that have a good opportunity from what they've shown in the past, and maybe they stumbled a little bit currently, but still have a shot of getting into that top 8 and maybe bumping somebody else out. That would be Kansas City, possibly Tampa, and possibly the Chargers. I'm having a hard time believing in Pittsburgh right now, but that remains to be seen. As far as average points for, obviously Detroit is the best offensive team in the league, no doubt about it. Buffalo's close. Baltimore's also close. Washington has quietly been stacking points game after game, week after week, even though they lost a few games, even though their defense didn't really shine. They know how to put points on the board. Tampa Bay's been able to do that, but of course, Baltimore, Washington, Tampa Bay, and Cincinnati are all in red there, meaning that they're hurting defensively, and that could be something that holds them back. The Chargers defense took a few lumps these last couple of weeks. They're still hanging on to number 1 in average points against, but I don't know how long they're going to be able to stay there. In fact, they're holding on by a fraction of a point because Minnesota, Kansas City, Denver, Philly are all at 18 point something. The Chargers are 18.3, then you got 18.4, 18.5, 18.7. You might as well say they're all the same. These other teams are all catching up to the Chargers. So they've got some work to do if they want to stay up there. And average turnover differential, you have teams that are pretty good defensively, being Buffalo. And they also have quarterbacks that know how to protect the ball. Buffalo with Josh Allen, Pittsburgh with Russell Wilson, Love with Green Bay. little surprising because he's still, a little bit shaky, but he's been playing well. CJ also has been a little bit shaky, but for the most part has been playing well. And Justin Herbert has been playing well. So if your quarterback protects the ball, your running backs don't fumble much, and your defense is strong, there's a good chance you're going to have more takeaways than giveaways, which will put you high in this category.
All righty. Well, that takes care of the top half, Benny. We're just going to take a quick look at the bottom half. And again, this is where you'll see what I was talking about, where in the net point rankings, you start to see the negative numbers. Rams coming in at 17, my Niners coming in at 18, tied at minus 1.2, Atlanta minus 1.5. And it goes on down with Carolina being in last place, 32nd place at minus 11 net points. Now, but again, net points, are basically the difference between your points for and your points against. Your Rams, your Chargers, down in the bottom half. That's what I was talking about. Chargers number 1 in defense, they're in the bottom half on offense. Same thing with Miami, and the same thing with Chicago. That's why they're in red. 32nd place, Benny, hate to say it, but your New York Giants are bringing up the rear at only scoring 14.3 points per game. Shador will do wonders to improve that, I'm sure. Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Most of the time, most of the teams that we saw in red on the top half were on offense because they were in the bottom half on defense. That would include Washington, allowing 23.2 points per game. My Niners tied with Baltimore. That just seems strange to me, allowing 23.3 points per game. Tampa Bay allowing 23.5, and Cincinnati down in 28th place, allowing 26.2 points per game. So those are why those teams are in red. I'm a little suspicious of those teams relative to any playoff potential because defense and the run game are going to be crucial in any real long-term playoff run. So we'll see how they make it up here. So that's it for the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings. Benny, any last comments on this?
Now, I just want to remind everybody these numbers have been accumulated over the course of the season. So if you are using the eye test to determine who you think are the better teams, yes, that does kind of count because, there's some teams that are turning the corner defensively and actually getting better. There's some teams that are turning the corner the other way and aren't playing as well. There are teams that are beginning to find their stride offensively and scoring a few more points than they did in the early part of the season and vice versa. So it might take a second for the numbers to catch up with that, but the numbers are what they are. And that's where everybody stands right now.
Like I always like to say, Benny, the net point power rankings are where the conversation starts. From that point on, you want to add your eye test and any other little information that you want. We can't take for account and, for example, into account really recent injuries, like the Tank Dell injury.
Absolutely, injuries make a difference.
That those numbers were included Tank Dell. He's not going to be there, so we'll see how his backup steps in. But you can always come visit us at www.sterlingnppr.com. Find out where your team is, and check us out as far as the next portion of the show, which is the Bias Plus Reports. And with the Bias Plus Reports, we basically look at your average net points and your average turnover differential between two competing teams. And we put all of that into a super secret formula and come out with what we call the Bias Plus Reports, which will determine which team is favored based on those two statistics. Up until last week, we were hitting at about 75% clip. Last week, we were at about 50. But I'm not really surprised. Again, 17th and 18th game, things start to go a little bit different because you've got some different motivations happening throughout the league. So we shall see how that all works out. Benny.
Well, for my second week in a row, I had 62.5.
All right, you did better than the bias there. That's great. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. All right. Well, let's take a look at the bias plus reports for NFL Week 17. And again, those net point power rankings were up through Week 16. Week 17 is yet to happen. It's going to kick off on Christmas Day, Benny. That's Wednesday, tomorrow, 12/25. Let's take a look at the first matchup. We have the Chiefs at the Steelers. Bias plus score of 1.6. Benny favors the Steelers.
Of course.
Now, basically, this turned on turnover differential because neither team is knocking it out the park on net points because the Chiefs haven't been winning big and the Steelers been losing recently. So they kind of were close net point wise, but the Steelers had a little bit better result in terms of average turnover differential, and that turned their favorites toward them. So what do you got on this?
Well, sir, let me tell you this first of all. Both these teams have clinched playoff spots. And with a win over Pittsburgh, the Chiefs can actually lock up the number 1 seed in the AFC West. Or, no, I'm sorry. Excuse me. They can lock up the number 1 seed in the AFC with the first round bye and the home field advantage throughout that comes with it. So this is a big game for the Chiefs. They topped the visiting Texans last week, 27-19. Mahomes scored through the air and on the ground. And the Chiefs welcome back wide receiver Hollywood Brown, who's been out with injury. He had a clavicular. I know you know about this. We both had that injury to the clavicle.
Oh, really?
His injury was right. There's a bone right here that connects your clavicle to your sternum or something. That's where his injury was. That's why he was out so long. Yeah, that's a tough injury, man. But he is back. He actually caught 5 balls for 45 yards. So big return for Hollywood Brown and the Chiefs. As far as the Steelers are concerned, Russell Wilson didn't play great, but he did throw 2 touchdown passes. Unfortunately, the Steelers defense faded under the power of the Ravens ground game, and they lost 34-17. This is going to be a tough one. I kind of like the Steelers to win this. I know I've gone against the Chiefs a couple of times, and they still pulled out the wins. But I kind of like the Steelers right now with their defense and being at home. So I'm going to go ahead and pick the Steelers.
Well, one thing I understand is the Steelers have their receiver back.
Yes, George Pickens is back. That will make a difference. Like I said last week when they lost without him, I don't know how much of a difference he's going to make. He will definitely make a difference. How big a difference is the question, but we will see.
And also, I believe that I'm starting to see some of the same issues with Russell that I saw with some of the other smaller quarterbacks. Like the weather does affect them. And in Russell's case, if you take that deep ball from him, I don't know if he's that efficient of a passer in the short game. So I'm really looking to see how that all works out for them. But okay, you're going with the bias, going with the Steelers. All right, next up. We have the Ravens at the Texans. Bias plus score of 3.6 favors those Ravens, Benny.
Yes, sir. As I said earlier, the Texans lost to the Chiefs 27-19. They're the home team in this upcoming game. They didn't help themselves throwing 2 picks and getting penalized 6 times. So not a good day for the Texans. The Ravens, however, brought a solid game plan into the battle against their nemesis, Pittsburgh. And everybody knows Pittsburgh has had their number over the years, but this time they were ready. Their game plan worked like a charm. They ran the ball a clock controlling 38 times for a total of 220 yards. 24 of those 38 carries were by Derrick Henry, and 9, which I think 10 is my magic number, 9 carries for Lamar. He didn't have as much yardage as he usually has when he has like 5 carries and he has 2 breakaways. But 9 carries by Lamar, that kept the Steelers' defense off balance enough that it allowed Lamar to throw the ball very effectively, 15 of 23, and 3 touchdowns through the air. Nice mix, nice balance. I love the Ravens to win this game over the Texans.
All right, going with the bias Going with the Ravens here. Yeah, I know, man. Lamar's looking Lamar-like. What can I tell you? All right. TNF. That means we've gone from Wednesday to Thursday night football. Seahawks at Bears, Benny. Bias plus score 1.4 favors the Seahawks.
Yeah, they lost. Oof, boy, they lost a tough one. Bears are at home. Seahawks will have to go to Chicago. The Seahawks are still on the bubble. So their hopes are slim, but they still have hope of making the playoffs. Tough NFC West. The Bears have been eliminated. They're 4-11. Let's talk about the Seahawks first. Both teams, first of all, are coming off losses, but the Seahawks still have some playoff life. They lost a hard-fought battle against the Vikings. Score was 27-24. Very, very entertaining game. And even though they actually had a 24-20 lead with little more than 4 minutes left on the in the game, on the last of Geno Smith's 3 touchdown passes is when they took that lead at 24-20. After losing the lead, the next 2 drives ended in a missed field goal and Geno's second of 2 interceptions. So they bottomed out at the end of the game when they had the opportunity to win the game. Not good for them, but they fought hard. Geno actually put up good numbers and looked pretty good. The Bears fell behind 20-0 to the Lions before they finally scored on the first of Caleb Williams' 2 touchdown passes. They were never in this game. They lost 2 fumbles. They had 10 penalties for 70 yards, and ultimately they got crushed 34-17. I got to go with the Seahawks in this one. They're hanging on to their playoff hopes, and they've looked far more impressive than the Bears have.
Yeah, that would make sense. That would definitely make sense. Going with the bias, going with the Seahawks. All right, let's go to Saturday, man. We got football day after day. Chargers at Patriots. Bias plus score 15.6 favors the Chargers.
Yes, sir. So AFC West. Okay. So the Patriots are 3-12. They're eliminated, obviously. The Chargers, however, are in the hunt. And if you remember what I said, a bubble team has a hard road to climb. But a team that's in the hunt, you can look at as if the playoffs started today, they would be in. So the Chargers sitting right where they need to be as far as keeping their hopes alive. They pulled out a really big win, an AFC West division win over the Denver Broncos, 34-27. And I'm sure I picked the Broncos last week in this one, but the Chargers surprised me, showed me a lot more offense than I thought they actually had. They won the game
more.
A lot more. Justin Herbert was fabulous. In fact, they were down 21-13 at halftime. They came roaring back in the second half. Justin Herbert led 3 scoring drives. One ended with a Gus Edwards touchdown run. The other 2 ended with Herbert touchdown passes. So Herbert was nice. He looked good. But that was a really big win for them. The Patriots.
What did the Chargers score?
It was what the final score?
Yeah, and how many?
34-27.
So they averaged 21, but they scored 34 points in this game.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Down at halftime, he came back and had 3 scoring drives in the second half. And we already know their defense doesn't let teams in the end zone very easily.
Anymore.
I mean, 27 was a lot, but that was the Broncos. But they held them off when they needed to.
Yeah, wow.
So,
wow.
Good job by the Chargers. Now, the Patriots almost caught the Bills sleeping. I thought this game was going to be an easy one for the Bills, but hey, it's the NFL, man. Nothing's easy. So the Patriots actually went up on the Bills 14-0 before the Bills actually got their act together. That didn't happen until early in the second quarter. Drake May had some flashes, but he threw a pick. He lost a fumble. He's got the rookie blues, man. And now's the time when people are starting to talk about the rookie wall, where some of these guys aren't used to playing as many games in a given season, and they're starting to feel the pressure of the amount of games that you have to play in the NFL. But anyway, lost a fumble. Both the fumble and the pick were converted into points by Buffalo, and they ended up beating the Patriots 24-21. I cannot pick the Patriots to beat the Chargers. I just can't do that. Now, the Chargers do have to travel to the East Coast, but I believe they're going to be way too much for the Patriots.
All right. Going with the bias, going with the Chargers. The Chargers.
Oh, intriguing game alert.
Broncos Bengals.
Yeah.
You like that one, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is an intriguing game potentially. No doubt about it. I'll let you handle it. Go ahead.
You still trying to make up your mind?
Yeah, and
Right.
you know what made it so bad? Last week when they flexed the Charger game on me, that was my primary intriguing game, and then they flexed it on me. So I just said, Nix, I didn't even pick one, man.
And it ended up being a good one. But
Oh
anyway.
my goodness. Man,
That's okay.
I'm telling you.
Well, let me start off.
Bengals, I mean, you're talking about what's this? Broncos had the 10th ranked offense. Now the Bengals, again, 28th ranked defense. So that's going to be the question. But they got the 2nd ranked offense.
That's pretty doggone good.
Number 1 ranked defense.
That offense has been dragging that defense along all season. So let me start by saying this. The Broncos are in the hunt at 9-6. The Bengals are on the bubble at 7-8. They still have a chance. They still have something to play for. Now, the Broncos lost an opportunity to clinch a playoff spot last week and got their 4-game win streak broken and their loss to the Chargers. That's a tough one. That was a tough one. Great game for the Chargers, bad game for the Broncos. They were actually up 14-7 late in the first quarter and 24-13 in the middle of the third quarter. But after that, they couldn't keep pace with Justin Herbert, and they lost the game 34-27, as I just spoke of before. Now, 3 Joe Burrow touchdown passes, a solid run game, and a very impressive 28th ranked defensive effort got the Bills a 24-6 win over the Browns. Now, yeah, it was over the Browns, but they played well on defense, surprisingly well on defense, and that kept them alive for a playoff spot. We got a whole lot of offense against a whole lot of offense, but we have a darn good defense against a not so good defense. So even though the Broncos are the visitors, I don't think the weather's going to have much to do with it. I'm going to go with the Broncos to win this one, going with the bias.
Going with the bias, going with the Broncos. All right, what else we got here? Oh, how about the Cardinals at the Rams for an NFC West division matchup? Wild and woolly NFC West, Benny. Bias 1.1 favors the Rams.
Yeah, unfortunately for the Cardinals, it's not as wild and woolly as it has been. At this point, the best they can do is try to be a spoiler and try to put something on film for the guys that are going to be on the team next year and guys that may be moving on. They have been eliminated, but the Rams are in the hunt. I believe a week or two ago, the Rams were on the bubble, but they are now in the hunt. So they're very close. Actually, tell you the truth, if I'm not mistaken, I believe they're in first place in the division.
The Rams?
Yeah.
Probably so, because the Seahawks.
And the Seahawks just lost, right?
Lost, yeah.
That would put the Rams. Lost. Yes, sir.
Niners lost.
Rams are on the cusp. Rams are on the cusp of making the playoff, clinching a spot, and possibly winning the division. They went east last week to MetLife Stadium to play the Jets in 23-degree weather. It slowed both teams down a bit, but they hung in there until they could finally pull out a 19-9 win. They only turned the ball over once, and they stuck with their running game. And we preach about that all the time. They stuck with their run game. They only turned the ball over once. The Jets did not stick with their running game, and they turned the ball over twice. Bam, that's the story of the game right there. Now, the Cardinals could have kept their playoff hopes alive with a win, but they ended up losing to Carolina 36-30. I read that several players were really salty after this game was over, especially Trey McBride, the tight end, the rookie tight end. He was pretty vocal about saying that he didn't think everybody gave a full effort and that he was embarrassed to have lost that game to Carolina. The final score was 36-30. It actually went to overtime, and Carolina scored first in overtime on a touchdown by Chuba Hubbard, I believe. And the Cardinals are now eliminated. So that being said, I think that the Cardinals haven't shown me much defense. They let Bryce Young do the damn thing to him. So I don't see any reason why Matt Stafford and his boys can't do the damn thing to him. So I'm going to take the Rams.
Going with the bias, going with the Rams. Okay, Benny, let's kick this off to Sunday for the 1 o'clock slate of games. First up, Jets at Bills. Bias plus score of 18.3 favors the Bills.
Of course it does.
Of course it does.
AFC East battle. Jets are 4-11. They've been eliminated. Bills obviously have clinched. They're 12-3 and they're looking strong. I don't think they'll be resting anybody. I think they're going to try to keep the momentum going. Their win over the Patriots last week was not one of their better games, to tell you the truth. So I expected them to play a lot better in this game. They fell behind early, and although they hung on to win 24-21, mostly behind James Cook and their running game, they did commit 13 uncharacteristic penalties for 78 yards. Very sloppy, very slow. I don't even know what to attribute it to, but it didn't look like the normal Bills. The Jets kept it close in their game with the Rams, and the game was tied in the fourth quarter. But when the Rams started to find the end zone, the Jets fumbled, got stopped on downs, and missed a field goal on their last 3 possessions and ended up losing that game. No way are the Jets, who haven't looked good all season long, going to be able to compete with the Bills, especially with the Bills trying to prove that. Let's see. Who remember the game the Bills lost? Who was that to?
That was early on, wasn't it?
It wasn't that long ago. They lost to Detroit. And the next week they came back and they looked tremendous. I think they're going to do that again. I think they're going to kill the Jets. Got to go with the Bills.
All right, going with the bias, going with the Bills. That makes sense. And we have the Titans at the Jaguars. Bias plus score 1. 1 favors the Jaguars, Benny.
Okay. Favors the Jaguars. Wow, that's a little surprising. Both teams are 3-12. Both teams have been eliminated from the playoffs. Let's see. Titans. Mason Rudolph threw 2 touchdown passes, but he also threw 3 picks. And the Colts dominated the time of possession to hang on and beat the Titans. Wasn't much going on there. That was a relatively exciting game, to tell you the truth. Colts make games exciting, though, somehow, some way, but we'll talk about them later. The Jaguars scored 2 touchdowns, but they also lost 2 fumbles. As you can see in a lot of these games, turnovers have made a big difference. Also penalties. They got penalized 8 times for 60 yards, and the Raiders dominated them on the clock. You're going to hear a lot of the same themes here, and they ended up losing 19-14. I'm going to go with the Titans to beat the Jaguars. I think the Jaguars are
bias.
Yes, I think the Jags are cooked.
You know, the funny thing about this, Benny, I believe that the Jags, let me take a quick look here. The Jags were ranked, where are they at? Okay. Jags were ranked 27 with net points with minus 7.9. Titans are ranked 29th
Mm-hmm.
at minus 8.9. So the Jags are literally one net point better, although both negative. And then they were tied at the turnover differential. So that was it. That one stuck.
Yeah, that's it.
But you're going to go with the Titans here.
Yes, sir.
All right. That makes any sense. Raiders at the Saints. Last plus score of 9.9 favors the Saints.
Okay, obviously both teams are eliminated. The Raiders, however, snapped their 10-game losing streak by beating the Jaguars 19-14. The win drops them from the number 1 pick in the 2025 draft to the number 3 pick, but they didn't seem to care in the locker room anyway. They celebrated big time from what I heard. A lot of speeches, a lot of loud music playing, and a lot of game balls. So good look for Antonio Pierce and the Raiders. Now the Saints, I think the Saints are cooked. They got boat raced by the Packers 34-0. Yeah, they have a bunch of injuries to starters, and at this point, it's probably not even worth it for anyone to try and come back and finish the season. Starting quarterback, starting running back, all their starting receivers, they're all hurt. It's just a team of backups. And why would you bring these starters back with 2 games left to play and nothing really to play for? Not saying that they won't, but I wouldn't. I think the Raiders are going to win 2 games in a row. I'm going to take the Raiders.
That'd be further moving them out of first place in the draft. For sure. All right. Going against the bias, going with the Raiders. All right, Benny. Cowboys at Eagles. Bias post score of 15.6 favors the Eagles.
Eagles are at home, licking their chops because, well, at least the fans are licking their chops because, it's Cowboys week. And Cowboys week, they usually go bananas. But anyway, excuse me. The Eagles missed an opportunity to clinch the NFC East Division title. They lost to the Commanders. For change, I've been chronicling every week how these slow starts are going to end up hurting them, how they can't seem to be able to score in the first quarter. For change, they came out with their guns blazing, and they went up 14-0 in the first quarter, mostly on the legs of Saquon Barkley, who actually rushed for 109 yards and 2 touchdowns, all in the first quarter. Amazing. Unfortunately for the Eagles, Jalen Hurts suffered a concussion midway through the first quarter. The Commanders made all the necessary adjustments to slow down Saquon Barkley, and with their offense stifled the rest of the game, they were only able to kick field goals in the fourth quarter when touchdowns would have been what they needed to pull out a win, and they ended up losing 36-33. Now, Dallas unleashed. I was surprised at this game. This actually was a good game. Dallas unleashed a hard-hitting, opportunistic defense on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They were flying around all night. They recorded 2 takeaways, 4 sacks, 4 quarterback hits, 4 tackles for loss, and 6 passes defensed, and they beat my daughter's Tampa Bay Buccaneers 26-24. There was some pads popping in that game, let me tell you. Dallas defense looked surprisingly good. Now, if Jalen Hurts gets through the concussion protocol and he plays, I pick the Eagles. If he doesn't, I'm taking the Cowboys. Can I leave one up in the air? I haven't done it all season.
Hey, that's up to you.
I'm gonna leave this one up in the air.
Okay.
So
what do they call it? A push?
Not exactly, but
Okay. All right. I'm not a gambler, so yeah.
I won't take a win that I don't deserve.
Okay. All right. So you're not calling this one. Is that my understanding then?
Right. I'm not gonna call this one. I'm gonna let this one go. We're gonna wait and see. So I said if Jalen plays, then I'm going with the bias and I'm taking the Eagles. But if he doesn't play, I'm picking the Cowboys. So now if he doesn't play and the Eagles win, that's an L for me. If he does play and the Cowboys win, that's an L for me. All right?
All right.
I got it.
I'm glad you got it. Bottom line is the Eagles are favored, and if Jalen Hurts doesn't play, you have one backup versus the other backup. So we'll see how that all works out. All right. Next up. Uh-oh. Colts at your New York Football Giants. Bicycle score 9.5 favors the Colts. And Benny.
Yes.
Didn't I tell you the Colts running back wouldn't drop the ball before he got to the end zone again?
He ran to the locker room with it.
He had it all up in the air.
Well, he said it's never happened before and it will never happen again. That's a quote. So, I believe him. Anyway, the Giants dropped to 2-13. Obviously, they've been eliminated this time. They lost this time to the Falcons and their rookie quarterback, Michael Penix, in his first NFL start. That's pretty sad for the Giants. Not much to talk about there. There was plenty of scoring in the AFC South matchup between the Colts and the Titans, though. Ultimately, the Colts' ground and pound attack prevailed as they ate up clock and got help from their defense with 3 interceptions and ended up beating the Titans. I'm going to take the Colts in this game.
All right, going with the bias, going with the Colts in this one. Who we got next up, Benny? Panthers at Buccaneers. Bicycle score 16.4 favors the Buccaneers here. All right, Mr. Bryce Young been playing pretty decent lately.
Man, Bryce Young, believe it or not, produced like a franchise quarterback should. 2 touchdown passes and a surprising, how big is this guy? Like 5'9", 160 or something?
Something like that, man.
He had 5 carries for 68 yards. No, are you kidding me? And he scored a touchdown on the ground. That was against Arizona. They did have to go to overtime to get the win, but they knocked the Cardinals out of playoff contention, and they pulled out the victory 36-30. Big win for the Panthers. Great showing for Bryce Young. The Buccaneers needed a win over Dallas to keep their playoff hopes bright. They're still alive, but they're not bright. They are now on the bubble. They turned the ball over twice. They didn't play great defense. Fell to the Cowboys 26-24. And dropping from in the hunt to on the bubble. And also, they're behind Atlanta in the NFC South. Atlanta's looking like they're going to make a last-ditch run for the division title. I believe that the Bucks will bounce back, get back in the hunt, and fight to the death to win that division title. So I'm going to go with the Bucks.
All right, going with the bias, going with the Buccaneers. All right, Benny, we're moving into the 4 p.m. slate of games on Sunday. Starting off with Dolphins at Browns. Bias plus score of 11 favors the Dolphins. This was one of the games that they played my Niners. Remember, and I'm like, you guys are really going to let the Dolphins beat you at your own game? They're you. That's Niners East. So, yeah, however, it's a tough year for my Niners. Dolphins at Browns. Dolphins are favored by a split score of 11. What you got?
Dolphins are on the bubble. They still got a chance. They're clinging to a thread of playoff hopes. Browns obviously are out of it. Dolphins needed the win very badly to keep their hopes alive, and they were able to take care of business in a must-win situation against the Niners. I thought the Niners were going to put them out of their misery. Unfortunately, it was the other way around. Tua threw 2 touchdown passes, and kicker Jason Sanders kicked 5 field goals. how important are kickers? And it's been a bad year for kickers, but kickers are super important. And the Dolphins ended up winning the game 29-17. Devon Achane, whatever he's going by nowadays, he went to work on your boys. 23 total touches, that's receptions and carries, for a whopping 190 yards. They don't really have a power game, but they have a quickness and technique game. And that's what they beat y'all with. Now, the Browns decided to start Dorian Thompson-Robinson, or DTR, as people call him, over Jameis this week. Jameis wasn't benched. He actually has a shoulder ailment, I guess. Anyway, DTR threw 2 picks, and running back Deonta Foreman lost a fumble. And we know how critical turnovers are. They really had no chance against the high-flying Bengals offense, and they lost the game 24-6. Yeah, Browns got nothing for me, man. Dolphins stay alive. Dolphins get the win.
Going with the bias, going with the Dolphins for the first of the 4 o'clock games. And then, Benny, we have Packers at Vikings. Ding, ding, ding. Another potentially intriguing game.
Oh, yeah.
What's that? The NFC North, right?
Packers, yes.
Packers at Vikings, bias score of 0.8.
Oof, geez, this is tough.
The Packers, Benny. I mean, let's face it here. Packers are ranked 3rd in net points, and the Vikings are ranked 4th. So everything
this is tough.
Right along like that.
You can't get much closer than this. First of all, both teams have clinched playoff spots, but the division title is still up in the air. And we're probably talking about the same division that the Lions are in.
Yeah.
Doesn't get much harder than this. Now, the Packers are at 11-4. I don't know how good their chances are to win the division title. In fact, I would say with only 2 games left, well, I don't know. I don't think they got the tiebreaker. They probably need to get the tiebreaker over somebody, and I don't think they have it against Detroit. But anyway, they can still make the playoffs. This probably will be the one and only division that has 3 teams in the playoffs. Packers 11-4, Vikings 13-2. Vikings will be at home. Now, a very, very beautifully placed ball. Some people call it a dot. Some people call it a dime. Sam Darnold put that thing on Justin Jefferson, and that gave the Vikings a 27-24 lead that ended up being the final score against the Seahawks. The Packers clinched their playoff spot, completely dominated the Saints, and registered the first shutout of the season. Both teams look good. Both teams look strong. Man, I don't know, man. This is a tough one. I'm going to have to go with the Vikings at home. I don't know what else to do.
Okay. Well, I know a couple people will be a little disappointed in that decision of yours.
I know a few.
They'll like the bias on this. So you're going to go against the bias, going with the Vikings over the Packers.
Yes.
Going with Sam Darnold over Mr. Love.
Well, I'm going with B-Flow over LaFleur.
Is that what it is? B-Flow over LaFleur, right?
Yes.
I don't know. They're talking about some of the stuff LaFleur is doing is pretty ingenious, man.
Yeah, he's trying to keep up with the OC in Detroit.
He's exposing the defense with 4 receivers on one side and stuff like that, man. And and they're they're doing some things over there in Green Bay. They're talking about innovation. All right, Benny. That was the end of the 4 o'clock game. We are now at Sunday night. Sunday night. Who would be the Sunday night matchup? That would be the Falcons. Come on, Benny, say it with me now. The Commanders.
Both teams are in the hunt. Both teams have a chance to win their division.
Well, I
Doesn't
didn't
get
say
much
it
better
yet,
than
but the
this.
bias plus favors those Commanders, Benny. 8.7
Yeah.
score. That's a little more than a touchdown.
Yeah, well, that kind of makes sense. I don't think we've actually seen what Michael Penix is going to actually be because his first game was against the Giants, who didn't put up much of a fight. But this game is going to let the Falcons know what they got in their quarterback. Um, he looked like a vet against the Giants. He led his team to a 34-7 win. He was 18 of 27. He's pretty nice. And not only was he 18 of 27, yeah, he had 3 passes that were dropped. So he should have been 21 and 27. The Falcons defense actually harassed the Giants and got him for 2 pick sixes. That was a big help for a rookie quarterback coming in his first game. Your defense gets 2 pick sixes. And they're now back in first place in the contentious NFC South and looking good. The Commanders found themselves down 14-0, 7 minutes into the game against Philadelphia. Going into the fourth quarter, they found themselves down by 13. But my pick for Rookie of the Year, Jaden Daniels, was not deterred. He threw 3 touchdown passes to the Eagles 2 field goals in the fourth quarter, and Washington won the game 36-33. Big win for the Commanders. I'm going to have to take the Commanders at home against the Falcons.
Gonna have to take the Commanders against the Falcons. Okay, Benny, going with the bias. Makes sense to me. Okay, we go from Sunday night. Now, Benny, I was surprised they didn't flex this game. And this is my beloved Niners against those Detroit Lions. And you know that the bias plus 17.7 is going to favor those Lions, Benny. I'm not sure how much of a contest this is, except for the fact that the Lions are one of the few teams that have as many people injured as the Niners. It's just that they have a high-powered offense, and we got a Honda Civic.
A Honda Civic. That's good. I like that. Oh, wow. Yeah. Poor Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy actually, I heard 2 different people on 2 different television shows look into the camera and say, don't you dare blame this game on Brock Purdy. I think I saw a guy online say the same thing. This game is not on Brock Purdy. I agree with them. He threw for 313 yards. He threw 2 touchdown passes. He threw 1 interception. But the ground game is in a shambles. You're down to your 4th string running back, and you guys could only muster 81 total yards on the ground between 5 different players with 18 carries. So your ground game is darn near null and void. If you can get it going against anybody, though, it would be the Lions, but I don't know, man. It's not looking good. They opened up their playbook on the Bears, started running all kinds of stuff. They're throwing the ball to linemen. They're falling down on purpose and faking fumbles. This is crazy. They destroyed the Bears 34-17, and I think they're going to destroy the 49ers also.
I'm kind of afraid of that myself. 17.7 is a nice size, healthy bias there, Benny. So we'll see how that all works out. But you're going to go with the bias, going with the Lions.
Yes, sir.
Well, Benny, if that was Monday Night Football, that would wrap up week 17 of the 2024-2025 NFL season. Oh, wait a minute. Wait, there's one piece, I think there's one piece of business that we've yet to handle, and it's a very important piece of business, Benny. It's the Bias Plus Buster of the Week, and we have something that I don't remember ever happening before. You tell me, you've been around all this time. But for week 16, the Bias Plus Buster of the Week is a tie.
Oh, a tie.
The Ravens and the Panthers.
I don't think we ever had a tie.
I don't think it's new to me.
I don't believe we ever had a tie.
A tie.
And I'm very proud of the Panthers for pulling that off. The Ravens, I kind of expected, but yeah, good job by the Panthers.
I'm telling you. So congratulations to our Bias Plus Busters of the week with a score of 20.8. And like I told you, we was 50% last week, so we had a lot of losses, but most of them were in single digits when we looked at the Buster score. So congratulations on these two teams. All right, Benny. Well, that wraps up the show for right now. I'll mention one quick commentary. I'm noticing now on what is this? FS1. Matter of fact, I got it on here right now. Yes, FS1. They're showing replays of the USFL and XFL already.
Oh, wow.
Getting us juiced for spring football.
That's cool. That's cool. I'm with it.
Yeah. Well, they're doing playoffs, so it's mostly good games. So not a bad deal. All right. Any last words?
No, I'm good.
All right, man. Good luck. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Happy Festivus.
Festivus, Kwanzaa, and all that stuff.
Kwanzaa, everything else. Hope everybody enjoys whatever holiday it is that you enjoy. And see y'all next week. Enjoy football.
Peace.